Hello and welcome to Beyond Damascus, the show where encounter meets mission. On today's episode, the guys sit down and discuss how to add mission to your everyday life, as well as what it looks like to implement small snippets of being on mission every single day.
Dan, you're in Dayton this week, yeah?
Yeah, I was speaking. It was sweet. I was talking about the Christian imagination and the role of the Christian imagination in renewing parish life. That was fun.
That is fun.
William would love that topic.
Yeah, we just threw out a lot of provocative ideas, and people were going crazy over them.
You went and just stirred the pot, and then are like, "Hey,
yeah,
go do it."
Yeah, it was neat. It's a bunch of just random parish leaders. So there's a lot of enthusiasm for new ideas.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I was this week I was just reflecting on the opportunities we have throughout the year to go to different places and minister. And I think what's really cool is the things that we're seeing at Damascus. Like, people are also seeing that elsewhere and also like hungry for the same things we're hungry for elsewhere, which has been just really cool. Just like, I really want to see the church get out and love the people on the margins in different ways. And so like, I've just seen people kind of rallying around that in similar ways to the conversations we've had. And but you flew back today though? So you were somewhere else too?
Yeah, I officially gave 10 talks in a 6-day spread in 3 different areas. Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Wow.
Good stuff.
Woke up early, got here back in time for closing mass and all the good stuff.
Yeah. I was presenting for anyone listening, and Aaron, you weren't there, but I'm like going up to present to like a group that comes here before the closing mass we have every week. And as I'm going up to present, Dan, who had me kind of tap in for him because he wasn't sure he'd get back in time, literally like came stepping out as the video that like introduces that talk came, and I just looked at him. I'm like, you can go. You can just go right from the.
I could have given. I would have made it with 1 minute
literally,
to spare.
like no time to spare. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed actually. I wish I would have never told Sam and just showed up with 1 minute to spare.
Yeah, that would have been.
Yeah.
That would have been pretty epic.
Yeah,
pretty epic. Are you going anywhere soon, Aaron?
No.
I don't really have anything on my.
No, I'm hanging out at home.
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Too much traveling.
Going to
this
Cedar
spring.
Point. So I think I'm going to go hit up the Ohio State Fair tomorrow. I have not done the Ohio State Fair in like 20 years.
Gosh.
So we'll see how it goes.
That's amazing. I don't think I've actually ever been to the state fair.
You gonna go see the butter sculptures?
I don't think so. I just want to do all the weird things.
Portsmouth has an amazing county fair. So I've only gone to the state fair, I think, for like a concert or something like that. And that's really been my experience.
I could have pictured you being like someone who like raised hogs
would
and
love
like
it.
showed them off at the state
I did some
fair.
4-H stuff, but I didn't raise hogs. But
Whenever you take your family to the fair, you just got to like throw $80 in your pocket for dinner.
Yeah, for sure. For corn dogs, it's like you put $80 in corn dogs, popcorn, and funnel cakes. Yeah, that's the best.
I secretly despise all festivals because the cost of everything.
Yeah, that is. I was at a coffee shop, and I love this like model. But you have like coffee shops that bring in food trucks, like because they're only serving. Some of them are like coffee by day, beer by night. They bring in food trucks for breakfast and then one for dinner. I like went out and I was just working there one day and go out for just like, hey, maybe I'll just get a breakfast sandwich or something. It was like $16. I was like, I'm not paying for a $16 like food truck sandwich.
The secret is you have to take the kids and make like a very fun, exciting like popcorn snack for lunch. And then do PBJ and just stuff them.
Yeah, nice. That's right.
And then tell them you're going to the fair.
Yeah, so in the middle of the summer when you go to the fair, wear a sweatshirt and in your hoodie, sneak in a bunch of PB&Js.
All right. Ready for the question, boys?
Jack, are you going to the Ohio State Fair?
Yeah.
I haven't been to the state fair in a few years.
Jack, I want you to exhibit
Did you
something.
ever go on that slingshot ride?
No, my mom is one of those people that believes any ride assembled temporarily will cause you specifically to crash and die.
Well, Jack, you have been out of your mother's house for about 10 years now, so you are allowed to make adult decisions on your own.
You should go with Dan tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'll slingshot you.
What are the digital images that people are like paying tons of money for? What are they called?
NFTs.
NFTs. Do you ever think like the state fairs will have people like presenting their NFTs in the same way they like present hogs and goats and such?
Not.
Yeah, because then I could see you reigning over that side.
I would never ever buy an NFT.
Kind of the whole reason they have a state fair is because people have
show livestock.
Yeah.
Welcome to Ohio.
Jack, do we have a question?
We do
Sorry
have
to
a
interrupt
question. No, you're totally
I'm
fine.
not actually
Sorry to interrupt you. You interrupted us.
you.
With your beautiful beard.
All right. Question of the week is, how do I manage my call to mission while balancing the other things in my life, i.e. family, friends, job, and my personal life?
How do I manage?
How do I manage my call to mission while balancing the other things in my life?
Oh, I like that.
All right,
I
I'll
like
make
that question. Oh, Dan, come on. Both
All
at
right.
the same time.
First of all, I really like that this person believes that they have a call to mission outside of just the things that they do. So I think a lot of times I hear in the Catholic Church all the time, kind of like, well, marriage is my primary mission or my primary vocation, which it kind of equates to I don't have to do any other mission work because
Mowing my lawn is my primary.
Yeah.
Primary implies only.
Yeah. And I think there is sometimes an unhealthy overemphasis that like, primary means only. And so it gives us an excuse to forget about others. And so this whole idea of like, okay, how do I manage a call to mission in the midst of everything else that I have going on in my life? I have a phrase I like to use. I stole it from my wife. It's do what you do and do it for Jesus. And so really everything you're doing is your call to mission, and your call to mission is meant to be infused into the very life fabric of all the different things you do. And so, so what I don't know was mentioned there, like family, personal life, work, all these different things. Like, what is your mission at your home? What is your mission at work? What is your mission in your personal life? I think they said friends as well. Like what's your mission with your friends? And then to even be like, do what you do and do it for Jesus. So when you're at work for Jesus. When you're with your friends, with your friends for Jesus. But I think being very intentional of saying, okay, how can me and my friendships, or how can my personal life desires really fulfill a call to mission? I was talking to someone the other day, and they were talking about how it was at church, and a lot of the church guys have formed a baseball league. And I was like, oh, that's cool. You have a team. And they're like, no, we have an entire league. And so it's like the church people all formed their own baseball teams or softball teams. So the church people were all playing against the church people. But like softball is one of those things that you could actually go and do with other people to be on mission, to like evangelize. So if you want to play softball, instead of starting your own little Catholic league bubble, right? And maybe actually just go out in pairs and by two, grab a friend and join a normal softball league, and then be a light in the darkness there. So your personal life can be your mission field, right? That do what you do and do it for Jesus. If you have a hunger to play softball, that like play softball, just do it for Christ, make that a mission field for you. But I don't think a lot of times what we do is we remove ourselves from mission territory, and we only do things intra-church, right? Intra-ecclesial, where we're like, okay, well, I have a desire to serve, so I'm going to join the Knights of Columbus and serve through the Knights of Columbus. But maybe there's other ways to serve that are extra-ecclesial missionary opportunities as well. So whatever these stirrings in your heart, just ask, okay, what am I called to do, or what am I doing? And how can I do that for Jesus? All things. And then the things that I am doing, can I be more intentional to make those more missionary by their very nature, as opposed to kind of retreating from the world?
I know it's a big passion of yours, Dan. Are there any areas in your life where you've seen like testimony of actually living that?
Yeah, someone on our missionary here that I think does it better than anyone is Emily Knuth. Like Emily,
shout out Emily.
She's in charge of our missionary recruiting, but she's just like, she has a lot of personal passions, and she utilizes her personal passions for the sake of evangelization all the time. And she's very confident, like, I'm going to go and join a soccer league by myself, or I'm going to go and do prison ministry by myself. Like even though we have a primary mission here, she has all these small missions on the side. And I think she is getting a lot of life from that, right? Because she's moving in the areas of passions that she has. And yes, she's being intentional enough to make sure those are authentically missionary endeavors.
Way to go, Emily.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Emily's amazing. I also think there's something to that just is right, because we abdicate our primary responsibility as the laity if we abdicate mission outside of the walls of the church. Because like the call of the clergy is primarily inside the walls of the church, right? Like the priests and religious, they're praying for and ministering to the people within the walls of the church. That doesn't mean that we're not supposed to at all. So hear what I'm saying, not what I'm not. But the laity have a unique call to the world. It's like, go out there and bring them here, right? Like it's the ministry ad gentes, right? To the people, to the nations. And Yeah, I think I'm just inspired by what you're saying there, because I think I've found it curious that like a lot of times we'll talk about duties of state, but we don't talk about just the general duties of church. So like duties of state, we know like I'm a married man, so I have responsibility to my wife and to my children and to my home and to steward all those things well. But the duties of the church is like the corporal works of mercy, the spiritual works of mercy. Like we're supposed to be like a light in the darkness. We're supposed to be the salt of the earth. Like when you look at the duties of church, like it's impossible for me to fulfill all of those by simply attending to my duties of state, if that makes sense. So it shows that like there's something here that's needed. So I want to affirm the person asking the question too.
Well, and I think sometimes we may limit ourselves to what mission looks like, you know, like, okay, mission means serving in my parish, or mission looks like going out and evangelizing.
I was going to say glamorizing it. It means giving a talk on a stage.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not
like, and with your question, I was thinking to myself, okay, like what are some examples of how I do this? So like, I really value small business owners and encouraging small business owners. And I value, businesses owned by females. And I think, or started up like female entrepreneurs. And it's funny because like I was mentioning this to my wife the other day, and she's like, you've never ever voiced that you care about women owned businesses, you know? And like, so I think sometimes we have personal passions that like, we don't even like I didn't recognize. I mentioned it to her, and I was like, actually, I really care about. Yeah. And like, I am intentional during the day when I'm working at a coffee shop or, going to different stores to go to the small businesses, to get to know the business owner, right? Like to hear their story, to encourage them and stuff. And so like, it's just a small passion that then has become randomly on Wednesdays and Thursdays when I don't work in an office. I travel around and check out different coffee shops, learn about different people, and I get to encourage them and share the gospel.
Meet different women.
Meet all these different women who own businesses.
No, I think there's I think that's a decent bridge for me. Actually, I'll just jump in. So I think 2 cents in the jar.
Cut me off. I was going to go.
Were you going to go? Yeah. Well, I think the reason I just think that what you're sharing, Dan's actually changing the angle of like what I want to say and answering the question, because I think there's a power in regularity. Okay, so I'm going to start here. Just that there's a power in being in the same place over and over and over again. There's something about evangelization that does require more than one touch point. There's something about it that in its fullness requires follow-up. And so when I'm hearing this question, I don't think it's a matter of finding balance with a call to mission with my family work, similar to what you were saying, Dan, but maybe from a different lens. Like, that is your mission. Like those are the things that you're supposed to have mission in. Like, I think sometimes we're like, how much more can I add so I feel missionary? It's like, no, how much more can I do in the spaces I already am that's of a missionary heart? Like when I'm at work, how can I give a reason for the hope that's within me? How can I suffer with someone who's going through something hard, or pray for someone who is in a situation that's outside of what they feel like they can control? I think there's tons of mission opportunity that's right in front of us that we don't have to be like, well, you know, in order for me to get my 40 hours of work in and to be there every night with my kids there's no room for mission. It's like, well, no. Because you're throwing out all the hours that mission can fit into. Like, how can I spend intentional time with my kids going out on mission with them? What would that even look like? Well, maybe it is going to a business and getting to know a business owner. Like, hey, every Saturday morning, me and my kids walk from where we're at down to the local bakery, and we know the guy who owns the business. And that guy has developed a relationship with us, and he knows that we go to mass on Sunday, and he's begun asking questions about that. So back to that original point, there's a power in regularity. So if you're someone that's struggling to figure out how mission fits into your busy life, instead, like, have a paradigm shift where you look at your life and you say, what mission opportunities in what I'm already doing am I missing? Like exactly, Wednesdays and Thursdays, if you're not working in an office and you're somewhere, what if you went to that same somewhere every day for the next month?
Yeah.
Like, you're going to get to know the people that work there, right? Like, or what if you fill in the blank? So I just think when I'm hearing this, I'm thinking, think of the things you do regularly in your life and think about how you can bring a heart of mission into them. And then you can get rid of the balancing question and instead find that the solution, I think you said it well, Dan, but just to put it again, is integration. It's, I am a missionary father. I am a missionary business owner. I am a missionary attorney. I am a missionary whatever. Like you said it is, do what you do and do it for Jesus. I think I I'm saying in a like in a definitive way, and in doing what you do for Jesus, be a missionary where you're at. Like you can't fulfill the call that you have in the church.
I know we've used your beautiful bride as an example in this a number of times, but
yeah, Nina's amazing at this.
I mean, Nina especially, but I think of there's a handful of people who are kind of closely connected to our community who also serve in healthcare, and to see the way that they have truly meaningfully embraced mission in that context is just awesome.
It is, and it's inspiring. Like it allows for us that are doing ministry that a lot of times, some of what we're doing is mission, like outside the church, but a lot of times it's like encouraging the church that like, hey, mission is what we're all doing. And then when you actually see like, oh wow, that's really inspiring.
Well, I think it's important too, because I think sometimes there's a perception like, oh, well, because these guys work full time for Damascus, then like their missionary endeavors just with Damascus. But it's really my job, day-to-day job, a lot of it, if I'm not out preaching and teaching, a lot of it's administration, meetings, like leadership,
strategy.
And so, it's not missionary work. And so it is a matter of like, we all are it's not like not just people with full-time ministry and then full-time secular jobs are somehow separate. We're all struggling. How do we get mission and incorporate into every aspect of our life? So it is that everything I'm doing, I have an eye with the Holy Spirit ready to go. And I think it's in the same way that St. Paul says, pray without ceasing. We would also often teach like, you can't pray at all times if you don't pray at specific times. And so you can't be on mission at all times if you're not on mission at specific times. So I think having those specific times where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do outreach right now. I'm going to learn how to do outreach. I'm going to grow in outreach. Or I have a mission that I have within my parish, or mission
or
that I have in my
I'm going to give a testimony to this person when I go in this day. Yeah, whatever that.
Yeah. So having the habit of scheduled mission time, which is valuable, and that should be a part of a lay person's life. And then that is what conditions you to be able to live mission at all times.
Yeah, that's good.
Let me jump on just a little
little
additional
thumb
clarifying.
flip.
Come on.
Flip.
Oh, I wanted
this totally over the entire
one
table.
was short, one was over. The next two will be in.
Okay. How balance is the word I want to zoom in on, because I think a lot of times when we talk about balance, maybe the perception is that how do I keep these things in how do I spend a proper amount of time on each of these things, right? How do I make sure I'm not spending too much time on one thing when my priority should be elsewhere? And I would say that my advice I would give for achieving balance in mission is to we need to take mission out of the realm of this is like my private and personal passion that I want to see influence the world, into this is something that I need to articulate and plan for and to communicate to the people that I love and to bring their buy-in. I'm sure I guess Brad, maybe with Nina, but certainly Dan with your kids. I had a situation a number of years ago where one of my girls was sad that Dad was leaving to go and speak at some conference, and she's like, "Why do you always leave? Can't you stay here and be with me?" And I just heard like all of the cliche experiences of absent fathers going through my mind, and I was like, I don't want to live my mission in such a way that it actually predisposes my kids to be opposed to the church. Right. To be opposed to the Lord. And the solution that I had wasn't, okay, I need to stop going on trips. Right. The solution was I need to communicate clearly with my kids that when I'm on mission, they're on mission, or that they can support in blessing the church by letting their dad go to this thing. Obviously there's extremes we need to avoid, or you can invite them into it, which you do excellently too. Yeah. So for Monica and I specifically, and this is advice I give to every single couple that I meet with in the process of formation for marriage, early on in our dating relationship, early in our marriage, we established meaningful and intentional conversation around what is the mission that I feel called to, and built our marriage in such a way that we focus on actually prioritizing the fulfillment of that person's mission in their life. So, Monica's particular mission that she feels called to is never going to be something that I see as competition with our marriage. Why? Because I know it's a passion and a call on her life. And I know that in order to support and to love her, I need to make room for it. I need to make space for it. And when we operate in that way, whether it be with friends or family or our children or our spouse, I think that is where all of a sudden that idea of balance doesn't need to become a thing that I have to fight for. But Monica's my biggest cheerleader in going to do these things. My kids celebrate and pray for me and intercede for me and send me out when I'm on mission outside of my work.
Yeah, it's a team effort. Mm-hmm.
So I think I'll boil that down to, you've got to communicate it. You've got to articulate it clearly to the people you care most about, so that you can invite them in, so that it's not just a me thing.
Yep. That's
I
awesome.
like that a lot. Yeah. I wonder, it seems, so when you were saying that, Aaron, what was coming to my mind is that sounds so easy, but there's so it's so funny how that just rarely happens. It was similar to early in having Eliza, a priest friend of mine was like, hey, have you been blessing your daughter? And I was just like, well, yeah, like affirming and honoring. He's like, yeah, but just blessing in a very intentional way. And I was like, no. And he gave me this very simple thing, but it's hard for me to implement. And I don't, it's been funny to kind of just walk that, first of all, what does that mean? But when I hear that, similar to how I heard that priest say that to me, when you're saying that, it sounds simple, but have you had any roadblocks, or what makes that difficult to invite?
I think those things are tied,
into?
actually.
Yeah.
There is a sense that we carry as humans. I think it's built into us in the way that we're raised, that my prayer life is private. And it has to be kept private and sensitive, right? I can't. It was most certainly after the conclusion of college was the first time that I was actually invited to share about my prayer life with my friends, right?
Yeah.
Or I guess outside of Catholic Youth Summer Camp, right? That being invited into a missional environment was the very first time growing up through years of Catholic education that I was even introduced to the idea that you should talk about prayer.
What God is saying.
And there's that false taboo, I think, is present even in Catholic circles.
Yeah.
To the point where it's prevalent in marriages as well.
Yeah.
That
for sure.
I don't want to talk about my prayer experience with my wife. I don't want to talk about my experience on retreat.
I don't want to pray regularly with
How was
her.
the men's retreat? It was
good. Yeah. Right. No, that's really good. Okay. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me. We have this built-in disposition of that's internal, so it should be private, whereas it's not meant to really be either.
What's that phrase you always say, Aaron? It's something about when you start doing something with intentionality, you have a key phrase.
What you've done by intuition.
When you do with intention what you've done by intuition, you achieve acceleration. We were talking about funny quotes at the beginning of the show.
I know. I can't.
I did not make that up.
So say, you did. All right, say it again.
When you begin to do with intention what you've done by intuition, that's when you achieve acceleration.
And I think a lot of this is okay, maybe it's not that you've been doing it with intuition. Maybe you just haven't been doing it with intention, right? But you've been going to work. You have been going to living your family. You've been serving at the church. There's all, but not what's the intentionality that you can wrap around it all? Yeah. It's actually funny. My dad, he moved down to South Carolina a few years ago, and I was convinced. I was really sad when he said he was moving. I was like, man, this is really going to put distance between my relationship with my dad. I'm really disappointed.
Yeah.
He's moving 10 hours away, and it's funny. I've had a better relationship with him these last 2 years than I did in the years before him leaving, because now when we spend time together, we're way more intentional and we're focused on making sure we have time and we're having conversation. And I think sometimes because we're in proximity, there was relationality and there was a perception of relationality,
but not intentionality.
And so it's amazing that distance actually grew more intentionality, which grew the relationship. And I think the same thing can happen with all these different things. Maybe the only thing you're lacking is that to be a better missionary is better intentionality and planning on what is God asking you to do in these arenas of your life.
Yeah.
So Dan, don't just go hang out with the ladies at the coffee shop. You need to.
Yeah. The ladies at the coffee shop.
No, but
drinking pumpkin spice lattes.
I love that mission. First of all,
me too.
So one expression of that could be, I'm going to invite my kids along with me.
Yep.
I think a better expression could be, I'm going to speak to my kids about why this is valuable.
Yep.
And invite them to have passion for it.
Yep. Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
exactly.
I also see there's a there's a link here also just between we do things intentionally that we see as either necessary or desirable, right? And I don't think that we've done super well in the church to say how necessary mission is. So I'm just saying for who's not asking this question. So if you're listening today and you're like, hey, I'm interested in this episode, but I didn't ask this question and I'm still wrestling, like we're called, like the end of the Christian life is actually not internal. Like the end of the Christian life is external. Like the end of the Christian life is not the fulfillment of a Superman in Brad. The end of the Christian life is Brad poured out completely. And like, I think we've just missed that for some reason. We've hyper focused on the universal call to holiness, like continue to build yourself up, get holier, get out of sin patterns, become a virtuous person, have good habits. Like, and I don't disagree with any of that, but none of that's the end. All of that is unto me being able to pour myself out completely as the son that I was made to be. Yeah. And if we don't have the end as pouring out and we have the end as building up, we're never going to get the mission call right. Mm-hmm. And so like, when I'm hearing this, it's like, yeah, like a lot of the reasons that some of you listening and even me in my life, when I think about like before really getting into a rhythm with the Lord, like the reason I wasn't putting intentionality into mission is because it was never told to me to be necessary. And it wasn't something that I felt super desirable. But now, like, as I understand Jesus more and more, and I understand what the church has stood on and the saints that have gone before us, like all that's been missionary activity. All that's been life poured out. And so I know that's like an aside, but just when you guys were on that back and forth, I'm like, why are we missing intentionality? Well, if we don't think it's necessary, we're never going to be intentional about it. Like if I didn't think a date night was necessary with my wife, I would never be intentional to plan it. Or, I don't know if that's the best analogy.
Yeah. I have a friend who told me that at the end of his prayer time every day, he pulls out his calendar and looks at his schedule for the day and just thinks through like what he has to do during the day. And when he told me that, I was like, that's kind of dumb. It's not part of your prayer time, dude. And I started doing it, and it was actually like super helpful because it does bring intentionality of like, oh, okay. And sometimes it's just thinking practically like, oh, okay, I need to make sure this happens. I need to text this person and get this done. But when you do it at the end of your prayer day, you're also asking yourself, how can I be intentional on these things?
Of course.
To bring the Lord into these things. And then in what areas is there space for the Lord and what areas is there not? That, like, to your point, Aaron, like, okay, if I'm with my kids during this time, how am I going to be intentional? And I think we can probably all do that better. Yeah. Like 100%.
Well, if I can speak just an honoring statement towards Aaron, we were on a conference together.
No, you can't.
Was probably a year ago. No, well, I just don't want it to be like, this isn't staged. And I think, but I really do want it to be honoring because it was like maybe a year ago, we were at a conference and I was there with Aaron. We were just participating and we had a number of our other just coworkers here at Damascus with us. And we had a night where we were just like by the pool chatting about the things at the conference. Like it was in a really lovely part of the country. And when we were there were a bunch of like high school and young college students just kind of like running around and interacting with us. And it was funny because I felt a kind of my natural tilt sometimes, which is just to relate and be seen as cool by those people and then just kind of move on. And Aaron, when we got back, made the statement of just like, I think I'm going to go back out and share with them like what we're doing here. And I remember at first having the pull of like, oh, okay, try hard. But then I was like, but I mean that in like a sincere way. Like it was like a defense I had. And then, but once that defense, like once I was able to just sit for a moment in that and not react out of it, I was like, wait, no, like I love what he's doing. And when he came back, we had an amazing conversation and Aaron mentioned something that I take into my days now, which was just like, yeah, Brad, I guess at the end of the day, the question that we have to ask is not a matter of like how we operated, but did we move the needle forward in what we were doing? Like for that person and the Lord or for that situation and the kingdom of God, or like you can extrapolate that into a variety of things, but that's so helpful. It's like when you go to work, like wherever that needle's at, like when you leave work that day, the people that you interacted with, did it move the needle towards the Lord? Like that's a really reasonable question to ask. Or if you do it at the beginning of your day, at the end of your prayer time, like you're saying, Dan, like how in that thing, can I just move the needle a little bit? Like, oh, the world would be like, if we just took, I mean, that's like, it's such a small thing, but I thought it was huge. And I appreciated that conversation because it was one of conflict, but it came to like, I thought really amazing resolution. And I offer that to anyone.
What was the resolution? Arm wrestling, fist fight?
Well, it was the statement that
okay.
if we just move the needle forward, that's probably the right answer.
No, I think it's almost like you need intentionality and spontaneity, right? Like, so there has to be the intentionality of, okay, I'm thinking through my day. I'm thinking through what I do. And then there's, my life is interruptible as well. So that when an opportunity comes, boom, I'm ready to respond.
Yep. That's really good.
Guys, this has been good. I wonder, Brad, do you have any takeaway for us for a mission of the week?
I do. Yeah, I'm excited for this. So for those of you who are listening, if you're listening for the first time, we give you a mission of the week. And it's so that we can take what we're talking about and actually do something about it. And what I want to encourage you to do is just, if you're anything like me, you might have the tendency to want to do this in every aspect of your life starting now. But a lot of times that doesn't work. So what I want you to do is take one aspect of your life. So if it's your work life, if it's your life with your family, if it's your life as a student, like wherever you're at in life, I just want you to take one aspect of that. So maybe it's the classroom, maybe it's the work environment, maybe it's within the home. And I want you to ask just a simple question in your personal prayer, which is, how today can I be on mission in such a way where it moves the needle forward in this aspect of my life? And just do the exact same arena for a week and see the momentum that's gained there. So if it's the work environment, at the beginning of your day, take a short time of prayer. If you're not already taking prayer, or at the end of your prayer, just be like, Lord, at work today, how can I move the needle forward? And if nothing comes, just say, Lord, help me to be an instrument that does do that. And then go into work and try that. And then reflect on it the next day in prayer and see how you can do it the next day. Do that for a week. And I think there will be momentum happening.
I bet you'll move the needle forward.
Yeah.
Great
the
job.
callback. That's good. That's a good comedian.
All right. Well, hey, thank you all for joining us this week for Beyond Damascus, the show where encounter meets mission. We want to be a show that is on mission and that transforms the world. If you've seen, or if you've been inspired maybe by this episode, please share it with somebody who you think could grow through this message. And also, if you have questions that you'd like to have answered on the show, please leave a comment, or you can email Jack Parker at beyond@damascus.net. All right. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll see you again next time. And remember, as always,
mission makes sense because we throw pennies into a jar.
Have a good one.
Sense. Get it?